Always kind of felt sorry for the Tomb Raider franchise. It's never been an insanely popular series. That's why the reboot of 2013 had surprised me with how much success and mainstream attention it garnered. And yet, its publisher Square Enix has soon after release plastered the internet with how disappointing its sales were, even though they literally sold in the millions. Saying the game has sold badly at that time was a blatant lie, but whatever. A sequel was obviously going to happen. This time around, however, they had decided to make it Xbox exclusive for a whole year, and then release it to other platforms in form of an anniversary celebration. At the time, I thought this to be a horrible business decision, and was sure that it will bite them in the ass, eventually. But Square Enix assured us all that this paid off. Again, a blatant lie. Soon after the second game released, its developer Crystal Dynamics was picked up and thrown onto that nebulous Avengers game that looks god-awful. Wow, that really paid off, hasn't it? So instead, Eidos Montreal was asked to pick up the scraps and finish the trilogy off with one last game. The trailers and gameplay videos looked amazing, and I knew that I'd be getting it eventually, especially because Lara Croft is such a fun and truly iconic character that I've loved since my childhood, even though she spends most of her time falling.
Hey, Queen. Girl, you have done it again. Constantly raising the bar for us all, and doing it flawlessly. I'd say I'm surprised, but I know who you are. I've seen it up close and personal. Girl, you make me so proud, and I love you.
So how did they do with the game? Well, after spending about 60 hours with the game and doing all of its main and side quests, I can safely say that it's still a very good game, and I definitely recommend it if you can find it at a reduced price. However, that's not what you're here for, right? You're here to find out what happened with this franchise and why it's gotten so quiet around this game. And that's the story that I am going to tell you now. So, superficially, the game is very similar to both its predecessors. It suffers from the same issues, mainly the very iffy jumping and climbing, uninteresting side activities, and pacing in the story. Emotional moments are cut short, Lara isn't allowed to develop in any meaningful way. But let's just start from the beginning, shall we? At the start of the game, Lara is looking for a powerful relic, the Dagger of Kukulkan, in order to keep the evil military organization Trinity from acquiring it. She succeeds in finding it and, because she's scared of running out of time, just takes the dagger, triggering a violent tsunami that destroys a nearby town and kills many of its inhabitants. She is then ambushed and forced to hand the dagger to her enemies. This is an extremely intriguing setup for the story, and feels like a natural continuation of Lara's journey so far. As Jonah finally confronts her with what she has done, for the first time she truly has to face the consequences of her unhealthy obsession with her father's work, and the death she is causing everywhere. So off they go to Peru, where the rest of the game is taking place. Here we are introduced to some small changes into the climbing mechanics, like rappelling, which is honestly a great new addition, especially in the no hints while climbing mode, as it requires a bit of skill and timing, more so than the other climbing mechanics, and feels very naturally integrated in the rest of the gameplay. However, this still didn't fix the jumping sometimes being insanely generous and absolutely ruthless at other times. Enemy encounters are less frequent in this game, and fighting the wildlife has also been heavily reduced. The only 3 animals that I recall that actually attacked me are leopards, wolves, and foxes. Foxes just being a reskin of wolves anyway. This didn't bother me too much, as I knew that the game was advertised as going back to its roots by including more tombs and crypts and puzzles this time around. At first, this seemed like a great idea, But while unique enough, the game just couldn't find compelling puzzles and challenges for every single one of them. Also, you may press a button to receive a hint directly from Lara, but thanks to our 300 IQ talk, I usually had no idea what she was even talking about. I just heard the word attach and something and tried to figure it out from there. They do eventually add two new kinds of enemies, the Cult of Kukulkan and the Yashil. Although aesthetically very different, they basically act the same, with very fast and bullet-spongy melee enemies and some snipers using bows. Also, I cringed pretty hard at Lara calling the Yashil, who are very clearly human, creatures multiple times.
Hungry, almost desperate. I would not call them creatures. They're more than that.
The game later says they are aliens, and I just can't. After exploring the jungle a bit more, Lara and Jonah stumble upon a small village, where we are introduced to another mechanic in the game. People. Yes, humans now exist, and Lara can talk to them. They will tell you interesting facts about your surroundings, give you hints and side quests, or even trade with you. In a game that is essentially about Lara's influence on others, this is an excellent idea. However, even after acquiring the upgrades to lower the prices of traders, I still never really had enough money to acquire the vast number of upgrades and outfits offered. And this is after doing literally all of the content in the game. So, side quests, how are they? Well, they range from the mundane to the rescuing of a girl from getting sacrificed by her father while her mother just kinda stands there not happy about it, all because the kid can't read. Most of these side quests stem from the DLC for the game, which I had full access to thanks to having bought the complete edition of the game. And I have to say, the DLC is absolutely not worth it. Most of these side quests are half an hour to 40 minutes long, which for side quests is a good length, but considering that these didn't come with the base game and are supposed to be bought separately as expansions, they are incredibly weak and empty content-wise. You usually get a powerful permanent new skill when completing them, but one of them was literally the ability to craft grenades. Welcome to 2019, where you have to buy DLC to unlock grenades in a shooter. Overall, the more I played, the more I just couldn't shake off the feeling that everything in this game is just halted and dialed back. When they said they'd focus more on puzzles and temples, I assumed the system of Lara learning different ancient languages would be expanded, yet it remained barren as ever, since the only thing those are useful for is deciphering some monoliths that are rarely found, and lead you to some arbitrary crafting materials, and that's it. I mean, this is the finale of a trilogy! But Lara still has the same skills and equipment she had in the other games, and in some respects is even weaker. I'm not saying we should have been an overpowered Rambo stomping through the jungle, but considering we are supposed to become a more resourceful and experienced Lara, none of that can be felt in the actual gameplay. Honestly, even though I love jungle settings, the areas in this game are shockingly similar to each other, and felt really drab and played out after a while. Finding the culprit for all of this wasn't particularly hard. It's the open worldness of the whole game that forces the developers to normalize literally every situation the player finds themselves in. Lara needs to be able to go anywhere and do anything most of the time during the game, so creating interesting and challenging gameplay was very difficult. There are glimpses of what this game could have been all throughout, as you're sometimes limited to only use certain equipment, or fast traveling is turned off during a story mission, but you're always able to return everywhere you went before. Just like Lara isn't allowed to change, neither is the game world. To tell you the truth, I do kind of feel lied to. The Lara that was promised to me in the marketing is nowhere to be found, besides for one scene in the story, to which we will come shortly. So, the story. My god, the story. After actually arriving to the aforementioned town, the story grinds to a halt and never truly picks up again. Lara later... again discovers a hidden secret society of indigenous people who just happened to also not like Lara's enemies and speak English. They go search for the Box of Creation together, as Trinity needs to use it together with the dagger to remake the world or something. A very generic motivation for a villain that actually makes a mostly human and reasonable impression. He saw what Lara's actions have cost and is truly convinced of creating a better world for everyone. So rebels fight the cult, generic characters appear, some of them die, yada yada, and you know what I just realized? This series doesn't have characters anybody actually cares about. I mean, there's Lara and there's Jonah, and that's kind of it, right? And they truly did my boy Jonah dirty this time around. While he tells Lara many times what an absolute bitch she's being by causing death and destruction wherever she goes, he just merrily tags along with her anyway. He also teleports around during moments that are critical to the story, which is kind of unforgivable, like teleporting into enemy helicopters, or getting injured and then being gone with the wind during an earthquake mere seconds later. Okay, controversial opinion time. I think Lara and Jonah are a good pairing. They're not amazing, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that I wouldn't get mad if they would have ended up together. They have personalities that balance each other out, and they truly care for each other. Also, I'd like a main character of a serious and established franchise to get together with a chubby person. Sue me. Clearly, however, I'm dumb, as the writers thought Jonah would be perfect for this random Peruvian bitch he's known for like 5 days. This leaves Lara alone, as she still doesn't put other humans before her work, even though that should have been the whole point of her arc. The game and she herself constantly imply that she couldn't have done all this without the help of others, but that's just not true. She never gets any meaningful help, and always does everything alone, so shut up! We get this one absolutely beautiful and sad scene where Lara thinks Jonah died, only for the game to ruin everything when he just teleports in front of her at the end of the level. Like, what? Anyway, the bad guy gets the box and the dagger. Lara then kills him by alternately shooting and stabbing him 4 times, and then needs to sacrifice herself to stop the apocalypse. Except she actually doesn't die during the sacrifice, which makes it not be a sacrifice, but okay. We get an okay scene of her telling her parents that she wants to live, and then it's straight back to the realm of the living. After which, the game is like, hey, maybe there's gonna be another game, but no, not really, lol. Also, Jonah's going on holiday with that one girl, so yay. Listen, if you fucks knew this was the last game, you could have just let Lara make the sacrifice, how about that? It's just sad how undercooked and short all of this is. Most of these ideas aren't half bad, but everything regarding Lara's inner feelings is just so rushed. Lara as a character has darkness and depth, which could have been explored in many ways, but the trilogy has always been incredibly afraid of it. However, it's never been as damaging to the product as a whole as it's been in this game. Who knows when we will see Lara again? I, for one, am sure that a franchise of this caliber won't stay that forever, and I'm looking forward to seeing her again. Just maybe treat her with a little bit more respect and confidence next time.
What about you, Lara? Do you have any plans for the future?
No, bitch! Okay.